everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review. And today's review is in association with MarvelousNews.com, your #1 news source for everything Marvel. And for today's review, we're going to be taking a look at the new Spider-Man 6-inch Marvel Legends Infinite Series Superior Venom figure. Now this figure is part of the Rhino Build-A-Series wave, and it comes packaged in the same style of Marvel Legends Infinite Series packaging we've seen with the other Spider-Man figures. You've got the Spider-Man logo up top, since this is a character directly related to Spider-Man. You've got the figure clearly displayed in the window box packaging, and then the Infinite Series logo down below along with the character's name. On the sides you have images of Spider-Man, and then on the back we have a look at the actual figure, a brief bio in multiple languages, and then a look at all the figures in the Rhino Build-A-Series wave. Okay, so let's get this figure open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside of the packaging. So first of all, this figure comes with the right arm for the Rhino Build-A-Figure, and we'll be taking a closer look at that Rhino figure once we have all the parts ready to assemble. So be sure to check back in a couple days for that review. Okay, so for the figure itself, Hasbro's basically once again used that pizza-eating Spider-Man mold and repainted it for Superior Venom. He does have a different head sculpt, different hands, and different feet. And then he's got this little backpack that looks like they've glued onto the back of the figure for the tentacles. But otherwise, the midsection, the legs, and the arms are the same from pizza-eating Spider-Man. Now, I will say that this character is kind of an odd choice to be getting an action figure. I mean, if you're a fan of obscure characters getting figures, then you'll probably love this one. But the Superior Venom character only appeared in like 2 issues of the Spider-Man comic. Now, if you're not familiar with the character, basically this took place during the Superior Spider-Man story arc, which was written by Dan Slott, where Doc Ock had basically put his consciousness inside and taken control of Peter Parker's body and assumed the role of Parker and Spider-Man. But during this 2 issues, basically he gets the symbiote away, Doc Ock gets the symbiote away from Flash Thompson, and it ends up getting on him, and he becomes the Superior Venom. And he basically thinks because of his superior intellect he can control the symbiont, which of course he can't. So he starts kind of going mad and on the verge of killing people, you know, criminals and stuff. And the Avengers end up stepping in along with Flash Thompson, and eventually they get the symbiont off of him. But again, this was like in a 2-issue arc and didn't have a huge impact in the overall scheme of things. Just kind of an odd choice for a character to be made into a figure. I'm sure part of the reason this got picked for a figure over, say, like a regular Venom or something along those lines is because basically this is just a simple repaint for the most part of that pizza-eating Spider-Man. So I'm sure, you know, cost-saving measures went into consideration for this particular character. Suffice to say, it's not a bad-looking figure. I'm glad we get the tentacles on this version. I was very disappointed in the Superior Spider-Man figure that we got. I actually passed on that figure because I didn't like that he didn't have the Doc Ock-like tentacles on that figure. So now I will say, and we'll go over it in a little more detail, the tentacles on this figure are kind of a pain. They're not very posable, and if you try and pose them, then they do have a tendency to fall off. And again, we'll look at that in a little bit closer detail in a moment. But before that, I just want to go over the figure itself. So as I mentioned, this is a new head sculpt, and I think the head sculpt comes out looking really nice. I like the detailing. I like how the paintwork or the paint job on it is nice with the web lining on the black. It looks really good. I really like the eyes and how they did that with the kind of black shiny inner eye and then the white around the eye with like that jagged Venom look. And then the teeth I think look really good, the mouth. So I really like how the head sculpt on this figure came out, and it's probably my favorite thing about the figure. Now he's then got the webbing that comes down on the upper part of his chest, and then he's kind of got that Venom logo, and that looks good for the most part. However, on the arms themselves, on the shoulders, they didn't paint. They kind of like where the hinge joint comes, and even like below it, they didn't finish out the line work, so it does look a little funny on the top there of his shoulders because of those hinges. They basically didn't finish out the webbing. But other than that, it's a pretty strong paint job. The rest of the figure is basically black, though he does have these little reds on his wrists. I also like the feet. They've sculpted, he's got toes, and you can kind of see like his veins on his feet and stuff. Though I'm not 100% sure that they're completely comic book accurate, I seem to recall that his feet in the comics, he actually only had like 2 toes, or more of a kind of a spider looking foot, I guess you could say. But I don't remember it looking exactly like a human foot with like 5 toes. So I like the detailing, but I'm not 100% sure it's completely comic book accurate. Now, as I mentioned, the tentacles there's 4 of them, and he's got this little backpack piece. Like I said, it looks like they just kind of glued onto the back of the figure. Now the thing is each of the holes that they made for the tentacles is a different shape. So you've got to make sure that you match up the correct tentacle to the correct shape on his back. It's kind of like one of those psychology tests where you got to put the right block into the right hole on the table. But the main problem with that is that it doesn't really allow you to turn or pose the tentacles once you have them in. So once you match them in, and just putting them in, they stay in pretty tight. But it's when you start trying to pose them that you start to have some problems with them. So we'll get these pushed in, make sure I'm matching these up correctly. So once you got them pushed in, again, they stay in tight and they don't move around. But if you want to try and like turn them to like pose them in different positions, then that's when you start to have problems with them having a tendency to fall out. You can turn them a little bit, but if you try and turn them too much, they're going to just kind of pop out. Now, the tentacles themselves are made with kind of a soft, rubbery type material. They're not really bendy, there's no joints or anything. So again, the tentacles themselves don't have a whole lot of posability to them. I do like the detailing with the sculpt. They definitely look kind of like something Venom would have. They look good on the figure. They just would be nice if they had some more posability to them. I almost think that the system that they used on the Iron Spider-Man figure they did a couple years ago with the ball joints, that would have been a better route to go. Those do fit a little bit looser on the figure, but they have more posability. They don't fall off as easily. So I like that system better. So the figure stands at just a little bit over 6 inches tall if you count to the top of his head. If you count to the top of his tentacles, then it's closer to 7 inches. And the figure itself is basically the same height as that pizza-eating Spider-Man figure. So articulation on the figure is pretty much the same as the pizza-eating Spider-Man, so if you've got that figure, you know what to expect. But we'll go over it real quick. Now, of course, again, with the tentacles on there, it's much harder to pose him without the tentacles falling off. I've removed the tentacles to show you the articulation. So you're probably better, if you want to get him into a specific pose, is to take the tentacles off, pose him, and then in whatever pose you want, and then put the tentacles back on. But the head is on a ball hinge joint, so he can look left and right. He can look down and he can look up. Now again, the webbing, they didn't paint over the hinge joint, so when you have him look up, he's kind of got that just all black where the webbing kind of ends. So it looks a little funny when you have him looking up, but not too major. Arms are on the same kind of ball joints with that inner chest joint, whatever you want to call that. So same again, articulation as the pizza-eating Spider-Man. He can get his arm out good, and he's got good rotation. He's got the bicep swivel. He's got the double hinged elbow, so he's got good bending at the elbow. And then he's got the wrist hinges, so he's got the swivel, and he's got the up and down movement. He's got the ab crunch joint, so he can crunch down and he can look back good. He's got the waist swivel. Oh, mine's really tight, but he does have it there. He's got the ball joints, so can't do the splits very good, but he can get his leg forward good, leg back good. He's got the bicep swivel, he's got the double jointed knee, and then he's got the ankle pivot with the up and down movement, and then 2 peg holes on the bottom of his feet. Okay, so that's my review. Overall, I think this figure comes out looking pretty good. It is a very strange choice for a figure, being that the character only appeared in a couple issues of the Spider-Man comic, but if you like those obscure characters that get made into figures, then I think you'll definitely like this one. I really like the head sculpt and how that came out. I am a little disappointed on the shoulders and how they didn't paint, around the hinge joints on the shoulders with the webbing, so that looks a little bit off. But otherwise, I think the figure looks good. I like the way the tentacles look on the figure. However, they are a bit of a pain to keep on the figure when you're trying to pose it, and the tentacles themselves are not very posable, so that's a little bit of a drawback. But otherwise, like I said, it's a nice looking figure. If you're a fan of Venom type characters, then I think you'll definitely want to add this one to your collection. This figure, along with the rest of the Rhino Build-A-Series wave, should start hitting shelves within the next couple of weeks here in the United States. The wave has started to hit shelves overseas, which is usually a good indication that we're just a few weeks off from seeing them here in the US. We'll have a full gallery of images of this figure over at marvelousnews.com. There's a link in the description below for that. And as always, we ask, please leave a comment. Let us know what you're thinking. If you're so inclined, please like the video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And until next time, I'll catch you later.